Even with hindsight, the merger of the Mario and Final Fantasy franchises seemed like an impossibility. In the mid-1990s, the two worlds offered something distinct for two very separate groups of fans. Those that loved Super Mario expected lighthearted action, coin collecting, block breaking, pipes to enter, familiar adversaries, and firepower. Fans of the Final Fantasy games, on the other hand, expected an epic, dark story filled with twists and turns, a lovable cast of characters that the player could empathize with, and distinct adventure with some familiar tropes. While legendary Nintendo game designer Shigeru Miyamoto created the world of Mario, the Final Fantasy series was the masterwork of the renowned Hironobu Sakaguchi of Squaresoft. It struck many as a surprise then, when the two video game masterminds combined their efforts into Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars for the SNES. Story-wise, the game throws you for a loop right away. Given that this is a Super Mario game, almost everyone would expect Bowser to be the primary adversary, and indeed, the game seems to point you in this direction from the get-go. As the story starts, Princess Toadstool is minding her own business among flowers and butterflies, but Bowser takes notice and swoops down to kidnap her. But after Mario runs to Bowser's Keep to rescue her, the player soon finds that the game will be of a different type entirely. Princess Toadstool's rescue is interrupted by the arrival of a giant sword, which falls from the sky and lodges itself in Bowser's Keep. In the process, Bowser and the princess are flung to other parts of the world, and Mario is cut off from the castle. The giant sword tells him it's now under the control of the Smithy Gang, and he's left with more questions than answers. Those that designed the game's story, I think, should be commended for originality at the very least. Even though the game uses so many familiar characters from the Mario universe, like Toad, Yoshi, Lakitu, and others, I was impressed by the way that the overall story was handled. Rather than just replicating the same story fans were accustomed to, a new one was created entirely. In this way, the game was a bit more like Final Fantasy than Mario. Though most of the playable characters will be familiar to Mario fans, there were two new additions. Mallow is a cloud-like being that believes he is a tadpole, and cries whenever he's upset, producing rain throughout the world. Geno is the incarnation of a star that has come from above to help repair the Star Road, which has been destroyed by Smithy and his minions. He uses a variety of star-powered weapons, including various guns and cannons. Of the two, he is my definite favorite. Gaining both Bowser and Princess Toadstool as playable characters was also a novel concept. Bowser uses spiked balls and claws to deal damage, while Peach favors the frying pan. Now if that isn't a great choice of weaponry, I don't know what is. Out of all the qualities of Super Mario RPG, the active battle system has to be one of the areas that stands out the most. The combat offered something almost no other RPG of its era did: timed attacks. For all basic attacks, the player can use the action button a second time during the execution of the attack. If timed correctly, the animation will be expanded, and the attack will do additional damage to the enemy. This can also be used to guard the player from enemy attacks, where a well-timed press of the button can lead to considerably less damage. There are also some special attacks that use a timing system as well, such as the Geno Beam. Finding the correct timing for each attack was a fun way to add replay value, and more importantly, keep the player engaged throughout. Outside of the timed attack system, damage and healing items can be used by characters through a shared inventory, and each character has an independent array of special abilities they gain as they level, not unlike Chrono Trigger. Even though fans of Final Fantasy would not be expecting such action-oriented gameplay in turn-based battles, virtually the entire basis of Mario games was action-oriented gameplay. So this was a great way to blend the two experiences together into a system that both groups of fans could enjoy. One of the clear highlights of Super Mario RPG is the copious amount of humor that's used throughout the game. Rather than incorporate a dark, foreboding world that many RPG enthusiasts would have been familiar with, the game designers made a conscious effort to lighten the story with comedic moments. One of the humorous refrains that's used several times is the idea that Bowser is bitter that his keep's been taken from him, and is often too embarrassed to admit it. Throughout the story, he's mortified to reveal this fact because it will ruin his reputation. When he joins the party, he also lies and says he's making Mario and his friends part of the Koopa Troop to save face for his cause. Another unexpected comedic moment happens when Mario retrieves one of the 7 stars from a sunken ship. The ship belongs to a group of pirates, led by their leader Johnny Jones. Though Johnny and his henchmen put up a fight, the chief adheres to a rigid code of honor, believing that Mario earned the star. He even goes so far as to help Mario when one of Smithy's lackeys, Yuridovich, attempts to steal it. These humorous moments really aren't unique either. Like Earthbound, the game is filled with them, and they play a big role in the player's enjoyment. There's just all sorts of ridiculous stuff. For example, when an oddball named Booster attempts to marry Princess Toadstool, the wedding is foiled by Mario, enraging the chefs that created the wedding cake. If that wasn't enough, the villainous Boshi steals all the cookies from the Yoshis on Yoster Isle, so the cookie thief must be stopped so that they can all race again. There's even a cheesy heart-to-heart moment between Frogfucius and Mallow, when Mallow discovers he's not a tadpole after all. It's just so hyperbolic and silly, and still makes me laugh today. There's so many of these moments that I don't have nearly enough time to cover them all. You just have to play the game to see them for yourself. I can see how some zealous RPG fans could have been turned off by this humorous approach, but those that love the game often point to it as a memorable facet. Many of the hardcore RPG fanatics I know, including myself, were willing to put aside their typical expectations because the game fits perfectly into its own mold. The musical soundtrack of Super Mario RPG is also quite memorable, and many of the songs fit the game's various locations perfectly. While there are a few remixes from previous Mario games, most of the compositions in this one are completely unique. One of my favorites was the theme in the forest near Rosetown, where Mario goes searching for Geno. The mysterious forest melody perfectly harmonized with the objective in the game at the time, which involved finding one's way through a wooded labyrinth. The song for Nimbus Land, the true home of Mallow, also has an extremely infectious theme that will echo through your head. The soundtrack is just awesome overall. The visuals in Super Mario RPG are also striking. While I'll continue to maintain that graphical quality in an RPG is much less important than other elements, the game's graphics are marvelous and probably some of the best on the system. The colors in the game are extremely vibrant, and the animations that occur in battle are equally impressive. You can certainly tell that the developers put in a lot of time and effort to make individual attacks unique, even ones belonging to enemy characters that only appear once. I suppose this is to be expected from a 32 megabyte cart, but in some ways, I think the graphics look better in this one than some of the larger carts on the system. Even the visuals of my beloved Star Ocean, which was on a 48 megabyte cart, looked less impressive than those in this one. The game made use of an isometric view to create a semi-3D look and feel, and this system was ingeniously used so that Mario's jumping ability can be put to the test throughout the game. Treasure boxes, some of which are hidden, are found throughout the adventure, and it's necessary to jump onto platforms and circumnavigate areas of differing elevations throughout the areas and dungeons. There were also a lot of great side quests in the game, including ones that allow Mario to obtain access to extremely powerful items and accessories. The one that stands out the most by far was the inclusion of a Final Fantasy-styled adversary called Kulex. When you retrieve a shiny stone, you can bring it into Monstro Town to open a magically sealed door. Inside, Kulex challenges Mario and his friends from another dimension. In the run-up, the classic Final Fantasy Crystal theme plays, and the song that plays during the fight is the same as the boss battle theme from Final Fantasy IV. Kulex is by far the most challenging enemy in the game, and his design was awesome. He also commands 4 powerful elemental crystals, which fit into the Final Fantasy motif perfectly. By receiving the Quartz Charm, an incredibly powerful accessory, the player is also rewarded nicely for beating the Mega Boss. Despite the accolades, I don't think Super Mario RPG is absolutely perfect. I think it does suffer a bit for being quite short. The game can definitely be completed in about 12 to 15 hours by a first-time player, and most of the bosses are on the easy side. This made the journey a player takes through the game a little bit less momentous than one would experience from some other RPGs such as Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger. Even still, the content that is packed into the title is substantial. The other gripe I have, albeit more minor, is that the game is very linear. I think the world map could have been executed a bit better, but typically new paths are opened and the destination is always obvious. North American fans of the SNES certainly consider this game one of the greatest RPGs, if not games, for the system. For this reason, it was wisely included on Nintendo's SNES Classic. Considering that complete copies of the game fetch a steep price, this method is a great option to play the game. You can also get it much cheaper on the Wii U through the link in the description. Super Mario RPG was released in mid-1996, at the very end of the life of the SNES in North America. To put this in context, the N64 and Super Mario 64 were to be released just 1 month afterward. This probably limited some of its successes, but make no mistake, this title is still given great reverence by fans today. It's just so unfortunate that the game never got the true sequel fans deserved. Nintendo did incorporate some of the concepts from Super Mario RPG into the Paper Mario series, but those games don't provide the same experience. All in all, I consider Super Mario RPG an incredibly enjoyable game. I can't say I like it quite as much as some of the darker, more epic RPGs of the era, but it is a standout title that blended various types of gameplay effectively for the audience it was intended to satisfy. It's also a perfect RPG for beginners that haven't played many games of its kind. If you like this review and remember Super Mario RPG, leave a comment below about the most memorable aspect of the game to you, or your favorite character. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell below to be alerted upon the addition of new ones. Also, please consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives, such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.